Well, once again, it's time, my friends, for another meet and greet. We're Southern Fried and nationwide, so hang on to your seat. Look around, here's what I found. I guess you'll never know what you'll see on the Southern Fried Podcast Show. Yeehaw!
Yeehaw!
Hi there, Dave. How are you doing this evening?
Doing wonderful. It's been a busy couple days, but I did stay busy today around the house. I actually cooked a little bit today, among some other things after surviving July 4th. And I think you said you mowed in this heat.
Yeah, I was going to mow,
Mowed
but I
some
don't have
today.
power on my new mower.
Oh, the new mower, flat tire already.
Yeah, I'm going to slime that sucker.
Well, hey, it's good to be here. We're introducing a new show tonight called Main Street USA. It's been a little bit delayed for us. We're wanting to highlight a couple of businesses, and we're just trying to set up some interviews with those folks. But we're going to be doing that. But it's not just businesses; it's community. It's towns. What we're doing, parades, whatever. And tonight we're going to talk car shows, and we titled this "Car Shows and Patriots." And there's a great tie in here. We've had we've got two guests. One has been here before. One is new, but they're together, Robert. And so we're excited to have Heather back. And now Frank is with her as well. We love you guys.
Hello.
We appreciate you being on from, we got to get this right, Robert. We butchered it last time.
It's
Nevada.
Yeah,
That's right.
you did it right. I'm proud of you guys.
We're working on it. Every time we see that name or think about it, we have to say it that way.
Yes.
And we're having fun with it. Well, I hope you've had good time off for the July 4th. I know y'all were busy. We're going to be talking about a car show that y'all are involved with. Got to get my y'alls in there. And Frank was nice enough to send us some video of some of the cars and scenes from the car show. We'll be popping those up. Frank as well has a car, although his is disassembled right now, being rebuilt. I think of the Bionic Man. We can rebuild it and make it stronger and faster and meaner and more menacing than ever before. So we'll have to have Frank come back. He's going to talk about it a little bit, but tell us what the car is. But to get the finished product, we've got to wait till it comes out of the laboratory. So,
Before we get started too much, just for people that don't remember or didn't watch the last show, why don't y'all tell us a little bit about yourselves?
So I'm Heather. I'm actually Dave's sister. I used to live in Georgia for 37 years of my life. I've moved out to the desert here in northern Nevada, near Reno, to be with this guy. So I'll let him go from there. But yeah.
And as Dave said, my name's Frank. Originally born and raised in South Florida. Lived there pretty much first 20 years of my life. Then I joined the military a couple years after 9/11. The military basically took me out of Florida. I've never been back since. And I kind of settled out here in Nevada. When I got out of the military, I took a job as a defense contractor down in Las Vegas, and then a great opportunity to join federal civil service came up at a naval air station up here in NAS Fallon, and that's where I've been since 2014. So about 15 years total I've been in Nevada.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate your military service.
Yes.
And only thing I got against you is you took my sister away from Georgia. But hey, I'm glad she's happy. We miss her, but hey, I'm glad she's doing good, and we appreciate y'all being on here. All seriously, we cut up a lot, but we're glad to have you on here. So tell us a little bit about how'd you get into car shows? How did that come about? And then we'll get talking about the car show itself that you just did yesterday.
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid, I'm a son of a gearhead. So my father has always messed with engines of some kind. In his professional life, he's an aircraft mechanic. He was an aircraft mechanic in the Air Force. He was a crew chief. He got out of the Air Force in 1980 and went to work for Pratt & Whitney engines for about 35 years. And so he worked on that. And then when he wasn't working on aircraft engines, he was tinkering with cars. So from the youngest age, I was in the garage. I was growing up around cars. And then when I hit my teenage years, that's where it really hit my stride, because my first job I ever took was working in a speed shop auto parts store down in South Florida. It was called Congress Auto Parts and Horsepower Sales. And everybody that worked in that shop had a race car. And so on Friday nights, we'd go to the drags. Saturdays, we'd go to the drags. And being 13 years old, being at the starting line and watching a 69 Camaro lift the front end off the ground and go down the track, I was hooked. I was like, I'm into this muscle car, classic car thing. And then I started going to car shows and just fell in love with those old cars, because compared to a lot of what was coming out, by the time I was a teenager, it was in the 90s. Cars have lost a lot of their personality, their charm compared to before. So when I went to my first classic car show, I'll never forget that it was a sea of color, right? Yellows, turquoises, ivory, these pastel greens, all this stuff. And then when you left the car show and you went to a Walmart, the parking lot was like full of white and black and gray, and it was just dull, it's just like, and so that kind of drew me in. And then the chrome, and then all the big fins from the cars in the 50s and 60s. And so I've always been a real big classic car guy since I was real young. Muscle cars, land yachts. I like them in all sorts of flavors. I'm a GM guy. I kind of gravitate towards Pontiacs and Chevrolets and Buicks and stuff like that. But I appreciate all cars. I give my friends, I kind of rib them a little bit who are into the Fords and stuff like that. But it's all in good fun and stuff. So, but I mean, but Ford makes a gorgeous car. One of my favorite cars of all time is a 49 Merc. That's a Ford, right? So I told her, I go, if we ever come across a 49 Merc, well, I'll gladly get that one if I can afford it and drive it with pride, because that's a bad car. So, but so I appreciate all the builds and everybody's different take that they bring to it. So yeah, I'm into drag racing. Followed NASCAR for a lot of years. I'll be honest, I grew up a huge Dale Earnhardt fan, and after he passed away, I didn't really follow it as much. After that, I followed his son, Dale Jr. for a while, but then as he got out too, I just,
Oh no.
We froze just for a second, folks. We'll be right back. I was just thinking, Robert, when he said that, I know a lot of people that have left NASCAR because of that their favorite driver was Dale Earnhardt, and then some of them did stay around for Junior. And that's very common to hear about that once he passed. Yeah. And it has changed. It's not what it used to be. Yeah. But there's a lot of drivers that I was a fan of way back, from Richard Petty on, Buddy Baker, and different ones. So I think we got them back. So you didn't follow NASCAR as much after Junior left.
Yeah,
and, that's where you kind of left off.
Yeah, and an interesting story about that was the first and only time I ever got to watch Dale drive in person live was at an October race in Charlotte, North Carolina. And that's October. So November, December, January, February, 4 months later, he'd be dead. He died in Daytona 500 4 months later. And it was crazy. My uncle was the one that actually was busy. I was doing something that day and I couldn't watch the Daytona 500. And my uncle, who took me to that race in Charlotte, called me and said, "Frank, you saw Dale Earnhardt for the first time and last time ever." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then he's like, "You need to put the news on." And I was like, wow. I got goosebumps right now. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's okay. Yeah, we were at a Georgia game that day. You don't forget stuff like that. No. And we knew there was a wreck before we left. But we had listened on the way home. It's a 3-hour drive. We heard about the wreck. We knew it was serious, but we didn't know that. And right before we got home, we heard that he had died in that. So, what kind of did you have favorites in the drag racing? Was there somebody that you really liked?
Oh, there? Yeah, growing up. So it's funny. I mean, I like all the different classes and stuff. I kind of grew toward in drag racing. There's a several classes of racing, but there's everybody refers to as like door slammers. So door slammers are, drag cars that still resemble of doors. They got hoods and things like that. So I always follow. Shannon Jenkins was always a huge night guy that I used to follow a lot. And now I follow a lot of the No Prep King drag racing that goes out there. Not a huge fan of the no prep. I like a track that's prepped a little bit, but they have awesome. So I follow a lot of those guys around. And then in the top ranks, John Force, Doug Kalita, Benny Bernstein. I mean, all those I grew up with the real OG legends, Don the Snake Prudhomme, Sox and Martin running those old super gas cars and stuff like that, or pro stocks. I grew up when I was real young. Warren Johnson was a huge name too. He's out of Virginia, and his son Kurt. So I mean, it's a lot of fun.
John Force, tragically in a very serious car accident and recovering. I don't know the full extent, but we've seen the video. I mean, that was a couple of hard hits, and of course the fire. So prayers to him. Been doing it a long time. I think he's about 70. I mean, the guy's been
75.
75. Yeah, he's been doing it a long time. Amazing. But so that's cool. That's a lot of cool background, and there's a lot of people listening to this would definitely agree with all those things. So, what kind of car do you have?
So I have, from when I was, taking in all the different kind of cars that were out there, I really gravitated to Chevelle. All right.
Yeah.
The 19 Super Sport. Just an iconic car of the muscle car era. Arguably you ask any gearhead that is a fan of muscle cars, most people would have the 70 Chevelle Super Sport in their top 5 easily. To this day, by Craft magazine, it's not around anymore. They actually did a drag strip competition, which muscle car was the fastest mile in factory trim with no modifications or nothing. And the 70 Chevelle came out on top. Specifically the LS with the 454 that was rated at 450 horsepower at that time, but which a lot of people thought was underrated, which is actually pretty insane if you think about it. We didn't see horsepower numbers that high until late 90s, basically. Once the muscle car, we had to come, it was probably the C6 Corvette before they started putting out 400 plus horsepower again. So 70 Chevelle. So that's what I have.
Where did the Mach 1 Mustang rate in there? I know it rated pretty high as well.
So the Mach 1 Mustang, it rated, most of them came around the 400 horsepower range, high 380s, 400s. There were very few cars that were over 400 horsepower. The Chevelle LS6 was the only one in the GM lineup. And I don't think Ford had one that was, if it was at 4, it was right at 4. Mopar was the one that put out a few cars that were around 400 plus. So, but they were just under. They were like 410, 415, right around there. So Dodge, outside of the Chevelle, I'm not ashamed to say Dodge probably won the muscle car wars, because the GM had like that one that was like the king, but they put out, the GTXs and the Roadrunners and the Challengers and the Cudas. I mean, they put out so many.
I like them. I'm a Chevy girl, but I do love any of the Mopars. They're very cool, very fast.
Absolutely.
Get the whole vibe of his car. It's the same with the Mopars to me. It's just that muscle car era.
So have y'all been to a race together? Not just car shows, but have y'all been to a race together?
No, haven't been to a race
Not together.
I take that back.
No, wait a minute. When we went to Florida, he took me to the drag races the place that he used to go to, his friends. And then sadly it closed literally like the next year after he took me. And that was like one of the biggest ones for that area too. But it was really cool. I got to see some, what do they call they
had a top fuel car there. They had a top fuel funny car there, but they only ran it at like 50% power. It was still really fast, though.
Yeah.
So they had a top fuel.
You can definitely feel that in your chest, and
Yeah.
it
I was fixing to
definitely
ask
a fun
you.
event. It was loud, and you could feel it in your chest.
Oh, yeah.
But I loved every minute of it because I love, my first car show, going kind of back a little bit, was with our dad. There in Georgia. Even as a girl, I was completely hooked. Like, I loved it, loved the Mustangs, all the colors, just the whole vibe that was going on. And I was only like 10 or 11, think much about it. And I just always loved cars. And so that's definitely something that we share together. We go look at when we do go to car shows, we go and look at the cars and we talk about them, and we just love it.
Well, awesome. I'm sorry, Robert, you have something?
Yeah, that's part of the fun of it. It's going around and seeing all these cars that people have built and how they built them different than what you would have done different. And oh man, that's the fun of it right there.
Yeah. So there's a show that I watch on TV. It's on Motor Trend TV, and it features Dave Kindig from Kindig Design out in Utah. And he has a great quote that I like to say when he goes to car shows. He goes, "It's not copying; it's called research." And so I tell her that all the time. I was like, I'm looking at all these. I'm doing research. I'll see somebody like the way they did their headliner or something. I'm like, oh man, that looks trick. I would have never thought that. Maybe I might, or something like that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Well, before we go watch some of the videos, so how long you been a part of this car show? What's it called? What's the name of the car show?
So it's the Fernley 4th of July show. I first attended this show as a regular spectator in basically the year that I got the Chevelle. So I got the Chevelle in winter of 2017. So that same July, I went for the first time ever that show. And I went for a few years to the show. Eventually, I joined the club that put that show on. And I joined the club the following, 2 years after that. It was the following year. It was the very next year. Because then we both joined. She had already come out here, and I was driving through Fallon, and we have a Sonic in Fallon, and there was all these cars parked in at the Sonic, classic cars, like an old school, drive-in, right? It's like a scene right out of American Graffiti.
Yeah.
And we pulled in and started talking with people, and then we're like, oh, we're part of the Fernley Classic Cruisers, and we put on the 4th of July show. And so I joined the club. And then I went from being a spectator to being someone that actually helped organize the show. And then fast forward a few years after that, they voted me to be the president of the club because their president was stepping down. And so everybody kind of turned to me and they said, hey, you're young blood. A lot of the car club members are a lot older. They're in their upper 60s, 70s, even some in their 80s.
Yeah.
And so they kind of wanted someone that was, younger, vibrant, that they knew, hey, if we make you the president of the club, you're going to be leading this for years and years to come. So they made me the president. So I've been running it since 2020, right? Something like that, or just before the pandemic hit.
Yeah, I think it's 2019.
2019.
At the end of 2019.
Yeah. So
and then I'm the secretary.
And then she's the secretary. She takes all the notes when we and stuff. And so that's how I took over running the show.
Cool. Okay. Typically, how many cars? I know you go to bigger ones. I mean, there's some you go to. There's thousands, but typically, how many cars do you have at like this show yesterday? About how many cars were there?
So for a 4th of July show, and for as hot as it is, I think we do pretty well. We usually average right around 100 cars.
Wow.
So a lot of the other car shows that we go to, believe it or not, on any random weekend, that's about what they pull, about 100, maybe 150. There's a few throughout the year that we'll go to that are much bigger. There's one in Carson City actually next weekend. It's called their Downtown Revival. That's a pretty big show. They usually pull about 400 cars for that show. There was another show that was held. It was called the Summer Salute, and it was held over Memorial Day weekend in Reno. That one usually always brought out a lot of cars because all the proceeds went to Veterans Foundation. So that show, there was one year, the year before she got here was the biggest year they ever had. I was in that show. They had 800 cars at that show.
Wow.
They ran out of room on the grass to park everybody. So it was pretty huge. But most of the other shows that we'll go to on a random weekend, you're looking at right around 100 cars, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. So,
yeah, and are some what's the percentage you would say of these that's in this show are military attached or have some sort of connection to the military?
I would say a good percentage, probably at least 50%, easy,
if not more.
if not more. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we see a lot of Vietnam veteran hats, a lot of Korean War veteran hats, Gulf War veteran hats.
Even in our club,
even in our club, there's a bunch. Yeah, we've got our club is mainly all Vietnam veterans. A lot of them are. Yeah.
Very, very cool. And I know, Heather, you was telling me, I think you told me it was, if I'm not dreaming it up, that one of the things that y'all do with some of the money is for the wreaths to put on the graves. As I think that's cool. I like that.
So here in Nevada, we don't have necessarily a national cemetery, but we have state-run cemeteries for veterans. We have two. We have one in Vegas and one up here in Fernley, which is about a 25-minute drive from where we live here in Fallon. And that's where most of the veterans in this northern Nevada area are buried. It's a very nice cemetery. They put on, we go and donate our time many times to put flags and wreaths and all of those things. But as a club, we donate between 10 and 15 wreaths every year. Yeah. Some years more, some years less, depending on, how many funds we've had come in that year. But I think last year we did 15, I think is what I remember. We donated 15 money to pay for 15 veterans to receive a wreath. Wow. That maybe, their family could not afford to pay the $15. So they're about $15 a piece. So it's definitely a good thing if in your own communities, to donate money to causes like that. We definitely want to do it as a couple, and to sponsor a few wreaths as well. But that is definitely something we do with some of the money that we raise is to donate for their wreaths across America.
That is absolutely awesome. That is.
Yeah, we're definitely very veteran oriented, just with us as a couple period, but even as a club, because we have so many veterans, it does mean a lot to donate our time, funds when we can. Show up, put the flags on Memorial Day, show up to the ceremonies and like that. So, and we do have a few members that are even a part of what's called the Nevada, the Northern Nevada Veterans Coalition, which basically does the ceremonies. So they will fold the flags, do all of those things for the funerals for the veterans. And so it's just a volunteer group of mostly former veterans, or they have family that serves and they want to just give back to their veteran community. So it's all volunteer based. So we like to help out with anything that's given to that coalition, because they do a lot of things for veterans in this area.
Very, very cool. Well, let's look at some video, Rob. What do you say? He's manning the controls here. So we'll watch a couple or one or two or three, whatever you want to do, Rob. And
in the parade that just showed up. And so we got to let you know, again, come over here, get registered, and get that participant's choice ballot. And you got to fill.
Very nice. Guy's got a great voice. I was saying that earlier. He's definitely commanding on it's a good sound system. Great shot there of some of the cars laid out there. You can see, and I noticed in some of the videos, you can see the landscape behind, some little rolling hills there, and definitely different than here, but I was noticing that too. So anything in that shot, Frank, that stands out?
So I know in that shot, as I was panning around, that was right after there was a Camaro there off to the side. It looked like it was a 68 Camaro that had pulled in and, caught my attention clearly, because if anybody knows those Camaro cars, they came with leaf springs. So in the back, so you can't fit very, very well without doing some major modification. And that was the first thing I noticed, was this thing had that tire underneath it. I was like, well, he's got some coilovers for sure. And it sounded very, very healthy when it went by. So I joked with the driver when he went. I went over to his window and I was like, you haven't done much work to this car at all, have you? And he started laughing. So
yeah, and the parade that he's talking about is a huge parade that goes downtown Fernley. So they have their own main street and stuff. And we usually have at least 40
about 40
cars,
some odd cars in the parade.
that will meet at a certain place. They'll drive through the parade, throw out candy, things like that, and then come to the park itself to park with the other spectator, the other participants, for their cars to be judged as well, to be a part of the car show. But they do love going and being a part of the parade as well, and then show up to our show for the rest of the afternoon.
Cool.
Oh, that's all great and wonderful, but you had me at candy.
Oh yeah,
I missed out on all that. I have to run the raffle tables, so I don't get to do that anymore. But
That's not fair. You should get candy too.
I know, right?
Let's look at another one here.
All right. So that's the interior of one of our club members' cars. It's a 1958 Chevrolet Del Rey. He's done a lot of work to that vehicle. It's ironic that you showed the interior. That's like the one part he hasn't done too much work to. That's going to get done next. He's going to have a brand new interior done with some like an octagon vinyl pattern on all the seats and stuff to match. But yeah, he did just do his trunk. I think I sent you a video of a trunk with an air tank. He just finished that up, so he's got all the panels in there and the air ride suspension. So yeah.
We definitely have that. I remember seeing that when I was uploading them. So
very,
very cool.
Now, I'm going to tell you, this thumbnail on the next one has already caught my eye. So
okay,
let's see what talk all about this one.
All right. Yep, that's it. That's his
the whole car.
That's the whole car.
Yeah, but the music going with it and everything is perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah. Our DJ Rich, he's a pro. So he's actually affiliated with Hot August Nights, which is
the
huge show that happens up here. It's the number one revenue generating event for Reno out of the whole year.
Wow.
It attracts something like 550,000 spectators, 6,000 cars pour in from all over the country. It lasts an entire week, and basically every major casino property resort casino property in Reno shuts down half their parking lot, and it's filled with classic cars. They do cruises downtown, all that stuff. So our DJ is DJs for them. He does some of the venues out there, and we were connected to him by one of our members who were friends. And so he comes out and does our show every year. He's a phenomenal DJ.
Cool. I can just see Heather singing these songs as the day goes on.
We were dancing. Frank was dancing with one of our club members, one of the ladies, out in the parking lot with one of the songs come on. I can't remember what song it was. I
actually drive her a little crazy sometimes because she has to tap me on the shoulder and say, "Okay, Frank, I'm overloaded with old songs." All right, because I'm a very old soul, and so I listen to a ton of like 1940s big bands, all the 50s and early 60s. Like that is my genre. I don't listen to a lot of newer music. I really don't. Most of the time I have XM radio. We have XM. Most of the time I'm listening to 50s gold station and music. So she always tells me
before he makes it seem like I don't like that music.
Yeah.
I do like that music. It's a lot of the 40s music I don't know. I do know like Glenn Miller and stuff like that, but that's a little too there that I don't know all. So I don't mind listening to the 50s and 60s because a lot of those songs we grew up listening to with mom. So I don't mind listening to those. But after a while, I'm like, okay, can we listen to something just even 80s?
I just have this image of Frank flipping on the Jackie Gleason stuff,
Yes.
He's got some classic albums that he did. So, it's great romantic music, though. I mean, he really was tied in with that at one time. So.
Now,
and then he had like the dinner club thing going on, so they were, and that was in Miami, wasn't it? Wasn't that Miami where he had that? I think so. Now's how I slid right in the hurricane thought right there, Robert. You like that?
I noticed that.
We'll come back to that, but
we'll come back to the hurricane.
Let's watch another video. Go ahead.
While we're on music, look, y'all, if you go earlier than Casey and the Sunshine Band, You've lost me.
I do love some KC.
I like some KC. Yeah.
We've saw
I
them.
like
at
Casey and the
Hot Dogs
Sunshine Band, but you go any earlier than that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you lost.
Uh-oh.
I do like some Elvis and stuff like that, but
Yes.
Yeah.
no,
Yes.
we'll let it go with that. I'm more of a
All
heavy metal rocker type, maybe some bro country or something. But
There you go.
What did you say? There you go on bro country. Oh,
He don't
gosh,
listen
I
to
can't
country.
wait till we start talking.
He don't know. He don't know nothing about country. I know about '90s country and a little bit of the newer
So
stuff.
let me
but that's about it.
let me correct you. I know a little bit about real country, like Johnny Cash. Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
I go with that.
Hey,
He
All
does
right.
like
Yeah.
he does like a few songs by Johnny Cash, and who else do we have on our playlist?
Oh, I got Conway
Hank
Twitty.
Williams.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Conway Twitty.
So like
Come
the
on now.
old school
Old
Merle
got
Haggard.
Hank Williams.
Dolly, yeah,
Yeah.
little Merle Haggard, maybe. I like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
What
George
about
Strait.
Ronnie Millsap? Let me throw that.
Oh,
down.
yeah.
Ronnie Millsap.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yes, sir.
I remember our mom. This is before Heather was born. We went to watch a movie, which was pretty. It's amazing. It was the Walking. What was that movie? Walking Tall. Oh my goodness! It was
Oh,
probably not a movie I needed to watch as a kid. But we went to this music store, and we had just bought this cassette player thing at Kmart or something, and she bought the Merle Haggard "Okie from Muskogee" album, and we wore that thing out. So I can go back a little bit on that. Cool. Let's look at another video. I like these cars and the music.
Here we go.
I didn't notice the first time that I watched that video because I got awestruck by some of the colors and some of the Chevys and stuff. You got a VW bus in there. I was not expected to see that.
Hey,
did you notice that, Rob? I did not notice that
won,
the first
didn't
time.
it?
Yes.
That bus won an award.
That bus was amazing. It was like it was meticulously restored. It's an older restoration because the trim was not perfect, but it was in great shape. Beautiful colors, and they staged it awesome. Like you would have thought if you cut out the background and you just looked at that bug and went around, that bus and went around the back, you'd have thought you were in California. Like the whole back of it, like he had a ukulele back there, he had a cooler back there. You would have thought you were at the beach. It was totally done. It was very nice. It had like bamboo wood on the inside. It was a total like surfer style bus. Well done, very well done, and it won. Yeah, it won best. I think it won best stock 1960 to 1969. It won. It was a 63 VW bus.
Wow.
Yeah,
pretty cool. I wasn't expecting to see that.
Yeah. Can we?
There's a lot of them out here. There's a lot of them because we're our proximity to California. So there's tons of them.
Oh,
and
yeah.
These old hippies got these vans and they got them all done up real nice and they're solid.
Yeah.
That's profiling. Why's it got to be a hippie?
Because almost all of them are. They are every time you meet them. They're always, flashing the shotgun and doing, hang 10.
I got to show that video again because you know me, I'm from South Georgia.
Yeah.
What is that old truck there in the background at the end of it?
All right, let me see. Let me see one more. Yeah, I see it. So that's a rat rod. I think that was a 34 Chevrolet.
That's what I was.
34 Chevrolet rat rod. He had a little small block Chevy in it. So
Yeah, I love those little old trucks like that.
Yep.
Oh my
Nice.
goodness.
We had quite a few of those.
There's a lot of like rat rods in this area, and they're just very cool to look at.
You see a lot of them because being out west with the lack of humidity and the lack of being a proximity to the ocean, the desert preserves a lot of these cars, and so you see a lot of cars that are otherwise would have been rotted out, in northern states or even on the East Coast with the humidity. A lot of people. We've driven by properties. People out here own acres and acres of properties, and there's just like old cars like in their yard, and I joke with Heather. I'm just like, I don't have enough money. I'd buy all these cars so I can restore them, So, but there's a lot of them out here.
Well,
You know what
if you
kills
go by
me?
Uncle Deb's up there, there's few on blocks.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, the people around here get frustrated because they'll see cars like that sitting with weeds growing up in them, and they'll stop to ask them about buying it. I say, "Oh, it's not for sale. We're going to fix it up." Been
Yeah.
sitting
Yeah.
there for 15 years. Nobody's done anything with it. So that's really sad. So cool. All right, Rob, take us off to. Wow, very cool.
Yeah.
Those were pretty.
Very, very cool.
Was that a Plymouth Fury coming up?
Yeah. No. So there was a Plymouth Fury there, but it was on the other end.
Okay.
Wasn't.
Yeah.
So
Christine, you gotta
I
like
think-
the Christine car.
Yeah, I think it was John
The
and
Bel Air.
Karen's. I think the one at the very end there was is a 55 Bel Air.
It's
Okay.
really nice. That's
Yeah.
I love that car.
Yeah.
That's one of my faves. Just
Yes,
I
it
love
is.
the Bel Airs and
Yeah.
the 210s and things
Yeah.
like that. They're just I don't know. They're just so nostalgic and I love them. So I love that car.
Yeah.
It's like red and white.
Yep.
And then we had the new Mustang.
Yeah.
What is that?
So that new Mustang is one of our car club members. It's 2022 Mach 1. So they stopped. I think in 22 Ford stopped making the GTs. So they were making the GT 350, GT 500s. He went in there to get one, and they discontinued him. So he ended up getting a Mach 1, which what Ford did was, the way he explained it to me was, Ford took the best parts of the 500 and the 350 and kind of mashed them together and then made the Mach 1. So
wow.
yeah, for 2022. So it's kind of got like the best parts of each car in it. So yeah.
There's a guy that lives near us. Play that one more time, Rob. What's that little? Is it a coupe or what is that? That yellow one?
Yeah.
Show that again, Rob. It's one of the last ones as it pans. What if you play that one more? That's cool.
With the flames
well,
on it?
the one right next to it.
The
not
T-Bucket.
first one. Yeah, we've got
Yeah.
a guy on our street. I think that's what he
Yeah.
has. He's been
Yeah.
riding it up down the road, but very, very cool. Both of them are.
Yeah,
But you don't see those as much. I don't see those. Maybe in
Right.
car shows are here, but I don't
No.
see those as much.
Oh, there's a ton of them out here. Right?
Yeah.
We go every show we go to. There's at least
Yeah.
2 or 3 of those T-Buckets out here.
Cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So because in Nevada, we get 300 plus days of sunshine a year, so it doesn't really rain that much. So you can drive something with no roof and the engine all exposed all the time, and then you don't really you have to worry about getting caught in a hailstorm or rain or something like that for
Just
most
be
part.
really when
True.
it gets super cold. That's
Yeah.
about the only time you can't
Yeah.
drive it. It's in like December or January.
Right.
Very
Well,
nice.
well, it can't be that cold out there in December, January.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're,
it can-
in, we're in northern Nevada
We're-
and in the desert,
oh,
so
yeah.
it can get super cold
Yeah.
like during the
Uh-huh.
summertime. I mean, in the wintertime,
Oh yeah.
like down in the single digits
Oh, yeah.
and stuff at night. I mean, it won't be that way during the day with being in the desert. It's
Right.
warmer during the day, and then you could have like
Right.
a 20-degree swing.
Oh, easy. We have
So,
we have 30. We easily have 30 degree temperature swings from the low to the high. Easy.
So as soon as the sun starts going down,
Yeah.
it's going to get cold quick.
Yeah.
So here I've learned to, especially when it gets in the fall, to take a sweater, take a jacket, because
Yeah.
if we're going to be out past it,
Yeah.
sunset,
Yeah.
it's going to start getting a little chilly.
It's such a big thing that on the local news, when they do the weather and stuff, when we're in the transitional phase between one season to another, the meteorologists will joke. They're like, all right, it's that time of year where the morning it feels like winter, the middle of the day feels like spring, and by the afternoon it feels like summer, and then we're back to winter again. So you got to leave the house with a coat, and then by midday you're throwing the coat off, and then by the afternoon you're putting the coat back on.
I've always
Some
heard
cars
that,
understand that.
tourists don't know how to plan because they don't realize how cold it gets. So they don't
Yep.
come prepared for those cold temperatures. I've heard of that before.
Yep.
And then if they get into some areas where there's mountain ranges, they don't think about all the snow that's going to happen.
Right.
So
Well, we have
That's
passes that
huge.
literally close.
Yep.
Coming over from California,
Yep.
that Donner Pass. So
Yep.
it's named that for a reason.
yeah.
All of that happened there.
Yeah.
So, and they were caught in a snowstorm, and they get really bad up there. Like
Yeah.
I'm grateful that we live, so far away from the mountains, but there's years that they just they'll get feet and stuff. What was it, like the tops of the ranges? Sometimes they'll
Yeah.
get like 105 feet or something like that.
Oh,
It's
wow.
like crazy.
Yeah.
You know, Robert, that's the second time we've talked to Heather. She's brought up Donner Pass. You know,
I know.
have you noticed that?
I mean,
A little morbid. Have you been there? Have you been to Donner Pass?
Yep.
We have.
we just
driven
drove
over it,
there.
yeah.
It actually is a beautiful area in the spring and summertime.
Yeah.
Even in the fall.
So
even in the fall.
we've talked about
Yeah.
like going up there and like, you know, just kind of looking around a little bit more and
Yeah.
stuff. But definitely during the wintertime, you do not want to get caught up in that
Yeah.
area. And there's other passes too. That was just the one I could think of
Yeah.
off the top of my head.
Well, it's the main one.
but
Like,
it's the main one that-
thoroughfare. Any trucking or anything, any logistics that
that
are
we
coming
get from California.
from California over, they got to go through that pass. There's no other way around it unless they go all the way around South Lake Tahoe, which that can get pretty hairy too.
That sounds like a good idea to me with that kind of name. Let's just go around. Let's go the other way.
You know, not to run a long rabbit here, but I read, you know, because that happened, that, you know, even those that survived, they were really messed up the rest of their lives just because of going through something like that. I mean, really, really hard to overcome that thought. So, you know.
But I will say, like, being from the South, you don't really think about it. I see things like we grew up in northern Georgia, so we had Lookout Mountain and stuff. Yeah. And that's mountains that I knew, you know. And then when I came out here and I actually saw the Sierras, and I was like, oh, wow, that's a mountain. Like, wow, now I get it. Because I'm like, well, they were going over like Lookout Mountain. How hard could that be? But then when you see it, it makes me
in covered wagons.
It makes me appreciative of the people that came before us.
Oh, yeah.
The ones that came from the East and had to go through these, you know, dirt roads and over mountains that were nothing was paved. You know, you're climbing over mountains and with horses and buggies and, you know, kids, and it gives you an appreciation once you see the land and what they had to go through and how rough this could be without air conditioning and common new thing, you know, like things that we have now that they didn't have, them indoor plumbing, things like that, you know, they lived rough, you know, and
they were no sissies. They were tough. You know?
They were tough.
Yeah. I think that the craziest thing, and every time I'll read something on the Donner Party and everything like that, I think the thing that makes me just go wow at every time is, in the end, they were not that far from where they had to go. It's just that the snow was so bad and they got so disoriented. I want to say, like, altogether, if my memory serves me correct, they were like 20 something miles away from where they had to go, which is a ways, but considering how far they had come, it wasn't that far. And it's like, man, it's just like, if they had
bad decision after bad decision, you know, along the way before that led them to their
amazing story. All right, Robert, another video. I think enough on the Donner Party.
If you insist.
I
All
see.
right, this one looks good.
Okay, Frank, on this one, that second car there, what is that on this? What is that car? And is that like a police car or something? Or what is that speaker? What is that?
Not a speaker. That is our friend's 1948 Chevrolet Fleetside.
Sorry? I think it's Fleetmaster.
Oh, sorry, Fleetmaster. Yeah, you're right. And what you see on the side is a 100% period correct air conditioning system.
Really?
I didn't know that either.
Yep. So in the 40s, you started first getting AC, and it was a unit that hung on your car. It's a swamp cooler. It's essentially what it is. You fill it with water, and the air passes through it as you're driving, and the swamp cooler cools it and pumps it into your car. So
I didn't know what a swamp cooler was before I came here. You might want to explain that.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I take it for granted.
I didn't know.
Yeah, so it's a primitive AC system. It runs off water. So essentially,
a lot of people use it.
You pour water into it, and then what ends up happening is, as water evaporates, it has a cooling effect. That's why we sweat, right? So it works off the same principle. So as the air is moving through, water's evaporating inside, creating a cooler air, and the air is pumping into the car. Now, it's not cool like modern AC, but it's going to be cooler than the 90-degree air outside. So it felt like a good AC. So you would not see air compressors to make under hood traditional AC that we know today in cars until the 50s. So that's what it was. So that's our friend Dan Peretti. That's his car. He's gone through great lengths to make it a very period correct post-war a car. With the sun visor on the front, the hubcaps.
I will say the coolest thing for me, because I didn't really understand this with the older cars like that, was the sun visor.
Yeah.
So they're made into the car. Like now we just have the ones we pull down.
Right.
These are actually made into the car so they can adjust them to whatever time of day they're driving, so that it kind of just blocks out the sun a little bit. I was just like, sorry, I kind of messed up our screen over here.
No, you're good. I didn't know that. I mean, the cars we had that didn't have air conditioning, we just had a little box in the underneath the dash. You opened up, and that was your air conditioning. So that was pretty fancy. I mean, that you've actually got a kind of a system there. I guess in a way, and I may be wrong on this, but I know in our plants we run these clima cells. It kind of works off the same thing, I guess, water and air and blowing that through. So. Very cool. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I saw that and I thought, what is that? So I definitely wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah.
40s. So that was a 40.
You had to explain it to me.
48.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Very cool. I mean, to think about how far they came. I mean, the turn of the century, horse and buggy, a few steam cars and all that.
Right.
And literally just, 30 years later or something, you've got something like that going on. It's just amazing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The creativity, the ingenuity, and the way that America led the world in cars. That is so cool.
Right. Well, and then a lot of that is tied back to World War II. So you had a lot of veterans returning from World War II who worked on aircraft and worked on tanks and worked on all these new things. So they came back and they brought that experience when they went to go work for General Motors and for Ford and for all these things. That's why the birth of hot rodding happened in the early 50s. A lot of these guys, they were just like, I actually saw a documentary about this where a lot of these veterans were addicted to the adrenaline rush of that conflict. A lot of the fighter pilots, the bombardier pilots. So when they're back in the States, they were like, well, the only way I can get that same rush that I had was to go fast because that's what we were doing. So that's how hot rodding was born. And these guys started tinkering with these cars. And then some of them went to go work for the plants. And then that's how you had all new engine designs come out and all this stuff because they were all trying to advance the technology.
The fins and things like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, and
that looks more
the space race in the 50s in the mid to late 50s with the Mercury program and all that absolutely influenced the designs. You go look at some of the taillights on some of those late 50s, early 60s cars, and they literally resemble like rocket flames coming out the back and all that stuff. And you had names like, the Ford Starliner and, I think it was Buick's emblem. It was like a big star with a bunch of little stars in the middle. Everything was rocketry and space age and stuff like that in those eras.
It pulls me in because that's okay. If we ever get me a car, I want a 50s car.
Not if. We're gonna get you a car at some point.
I like that.
I want some type of 50s car. Yeah. That's what I'm wanting.
He said that in front of us.
He did.
Oh,
he's on the
we've
record.
Talked about it. I guess I'm the only one that's like, that's a lot of money.
If
it's fine.
She is the one that is preventing me from going into unrecoverable debt to get her a car. So, it's like she's got to pull me back. And she's like, no, let's wait a little bit.
I like to go home and visit family and go on trips and things like that.
Otherwise, trust me, I would have been done had her a car already. So
cool. All right, Rob.
Hurricanes fan.
Yeah. What's that?
It's spoken like a Hurricanes fan. All right. What's this here? What's got something in the trunk here? I think we're looking at.
I think that's for the other one we looked at. I think that's what we're talking about.
It is.
Let's take a peek at this one.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was that's the trunk of the 58 Del Rey that you looked at earlier. He just finished that trunk. I want to say for the last 45 days, he's been thrashing in the trunk. Like, he made all the panels out of plywood, measured everything out, cut, weld, all that stuff. And then he took it to a friend of his that does upholstery, and his friend upholstered it all in the vinyl and did all the stitching and stuff like that. But he did all that himself. He's got more talent than me. I can't run a welder. I can't run a or something like that. So he did a good job.
Yeah, we definitely know a lot of, mechanically inclined people.
Yeah, a lot of fabrication. I can work on a car, but that's on a level that's above my pay grade.
I'm going to throw a thought out at y'all. There's a big difference between here in South Georgia and what y'all are doing. We'd have a John boat.
Yeah.
The old metal boat. We'd be fixing it up like that versus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Out in the swamp.
Did you look at the size of the motor on that boat? All right, let's look here. We got something better here to look at.
Dreaming. I'm always dreaming. Dreaming. Love will be mine.
Yeah, it's really amazing when you look at those and you think about the combined cost of what they put in these things and the hours spent getting it there. It'd be off the scale to even think about that. I was out in Oklahoma once, and I was preaching at a church out there, and a pastor had me over for lunch, and he said, "Do you want to go look at my baby?" And I thought he looked a little old to have a baby. I'll be honest, not that you're ever too old, but I was like, okay, he's a real cowboy type. Had the cowboy hat on, Western outfit, 6-shooter on the side, even in the church, because that had some trouble. So he was ready. So he takes me out to his garage, and his baby was stripped down. He had just got this thing and was fixing to go back up with it. So that was his labor of love, his baby. So I did get to see that. I never got to see the finished product. But I thought this is going to take a long time because he had it just about everything disassembled except for the frame. I mean, amazing. So I knew what he was doing when he wasn't preaching. He was working on his car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Rob.
We got one more here. Let's take a peek here.
Somebody's taking it back to 1966 there with I'm Your Puppet. Welcome to Fernley, the Fernley 4th of July show put on by the Fernley Classic Cruisers. Here we are at the out-of-town park, and man,
yeah, that's our friend Bill and Nancy King's 1963 Pontiac Ventura.
Nice.
So it's one of those. Yeah, I think that's the last year for the bubble top, what they call the bubble top.
Awesome.
It has that.
I love that.
So I love bubble top. I love bubble top cars. Arguably my favorite bubble top car of all time. I tell her all the time, it's my dream to have this as my daily driver. So one day, I'd love to have a 1960 Impala. So 60 Impala bubble top is my dream daily driver.
So how long of a day is the car show? Like, what is like a start time, and when do you kind of end? And
so the car show officially starts at 10 a.m. We are there about 6:30 in the morning to set up, put the pop-ups up and everything, and then registration starts at around 8 o'clock. So cars will start arriving there a little bit before 8, park, and then they'll be able to register. And then the show starts at 10. That's around the time that we start doing the raffle prizes. DJ really starts getting going on the music. And then the judges will show up about an hour after that, about 11 o'clock. The judges will walk around and judge. We assign specific classes to them to do. And then we wrap up around 1:30 because it's really, really hot.
That's when we start giving out awards.
We start giving out awards about 1:30, and then we're wrapped up by about 2 o'clock. And then that way people have enough time to get out of the heat of the day and then get ready for 4th of July evening festivities and stuff like that. Most of the car shows that we go to run between 8 and 2 o'clock is about the time that they run. Hot August Nights is the different animal though. Hot August Nights is all day and into the night. So the show officially ends at Hot August Nights at like around 5 p.m. But the cars don't go anywhere, and then the sun goes down, and then they start playing concerts. And so you can still go look at cars until 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
So it is it's an all day thing.
That's a long day, you know.
It's a long day. I'm usually out there. So the judges can start walking around anytime after 8 o'clock. So what I'll normally do is
there all day.
I get up early. All right. So I get up early and, I uncover the car. I do have a car cover. So I'll uncover the car and then, the cover does a good job of keeping it mostly dust free, but I'll spray it down with some quick detailer. I'll wipe it. I'll get it all ready to go. And then it's all day. It's basically from 8 a.m. until 10 o'clock at night, basically,
I mean, obviously we come in and have lunch.
Yeah, we'll come in. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah. And then there's a couple days during hot August nights. I'll leave the car on display there and we'll go to another venue and we'll like check out the auction and check out, because there's really nice cars at the auction.
Have a mag auction.
Yeah.
In conjunction with this, they do memorabilia.
Yeah, memorabilia. They do memorabilia auctions
and cars.
Yeah.
And they auction off cars too. So we're going to actually be a part of that this year. Not bidding on cars. I won't let him, but we're going to, look at the memorabilia. I did last year, got a signed copy from Val Kilmer from Top Gun that he had signed, all framed up. I scored that last year. I also scored a Dirty Dancing picture that Patrick Swayze and I think Jennifer Grey, I think, had signed it.
Yeah, they both signed it.
So that was 2 scores. I think we got something else, didn't we? Didn't you get something?
I got a couple things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got the oil pump.
Oh yeah. That's
right. I bought. So they had. So back in the 30s and 40s, in the gas stations, they used to have a big. It was almost rectangular. And it's still maybe about 3.5 feet tall, and it was a big giant oil pump. You would bring your oil can over or your bottle, and they could fill it with oil. So I got one of those. It was plain. It was gray. It was just like, I scored it for $40, right? And I brought it home and I sanded it and I repainted it. And my garage is themed after Mobil Gas and Standard Oil, so I painted it red and white, and I put the big Pegasus on it and everything like that. So I got it as a display piece in my garage.
Oh man!
Yeah,
how cool!
I didn't know y'all were into memorabilia and stuff like that. I could sign you something from John Copperhead Remington and mail it to you if you like.
Yeah, you can easily score that.
I had never been to a legit auction like that before. It's intense. It's fun.
It's fun.
They can get up kind of high. It was like after a while, I'm like, okay, I don't want it that bad. I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, never mind.
But at the same time, you can get some amazing deal. Like I was kicking myself. There was one car specifically that I was eyeballing for her last year. We were not a registered bidder, so there's no way I could have got it. And I saw the car and I'm like, I'm really curious to know what that car's going to go for. After the auction was over, went for $13,000. And I looked at her and I said, that's a steal.
It is.
Are you kidding me? Yeah. It was a 1956 Packard. Beautiful car, good condition, 56 Packard. And I said, I was like, nobody knows how to work on a Packard, but that's okay. We can pull that motor out and put a small block Chevy in it or something that everybody knows how it runs. An overdrive transmission could have had you a hot rod for $15K. Easy.
Wow.
Right. Wow. So that's why I was telling her, I was like, we're going to bid on a car next year, because we don't, and she won't let me. She won't let me do it.
I'm saying no, because all the work that he is doing to his own car. So he has to put a pause on things for a minute.
We got to put a pause on it for a little bit.
Well, we appreciate your time with us. I just got a couple of questions. If Rob's got any, these are real quick, real easy. So for both of you, what's your favorite part of the car show? If you had to pick one thing, what's your favorite?
Like car shows in general, or our car show?
Yeah. Well, we'll say that car show. What's
okay. Go ahead. I'll let you go first.
So the favorite part of the 4th of July, this particular one, this show brought me Heather. Like, that is the number one memory that I have of this car. So
how sweet.
I posted a picture of myself in the car waiting to go through the parade back in 2017 on Facebook. And as she tells me all the time, that was the photo that kind of hooked her, or kind of drew her in.
I'll be honest, it was the car. I'm not going to lie. He was cute, but the car pulled me in real quick. And then I was like, oh, well, what's this?
Yeah.
So they obviously photographed the good side.
Yeah,
Right,
absolutely,
right,
Okay. Of
absolutely.
the car.
So that's why this show will always have a special place in my heart because of that. Because that's where that's kind of what started the conversation online between us to go to another level. So
Yeah. Awesome. They always say if you've, it doesn't matter how you look, if you've got a nice car, you get the chick. So,
yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's right.
All
I
right,
do.
Heather, what's your favorite part?
Okay, well, he's trying to like blew it out of the water over here with that. I can't compete with that.
Well, yeah, he got
It
some
does.
points on that one, So
Yeah,
It does
yeah,
mean a
yeah.
lot to both of us because of that reason. But now I've been a part. So when I first started with the club, they were about to have the show and needed volunteers. So I volunteered for the raffle table. So that's just kind of been adopted into now I'm over the raffles. So I'm the person that kind of just organizes everything, gets everything ready, make sure we have things to donate. Obviously, I have a lot of help doing that. I have people that are going out asking for donations and things like that. But it's a lot of work. But I will say the day of, I get to meet a lot of people. I get to make a lot of people happy because they win really cool stuff. And it's just a fun day. And they all love my accent and just think it's the cutest thing ever. And
love it.
There's no pictures of me, but I'm decked out in red, white, and blue. I think I had on like almost Mickey Mouse ears yesterday that were red, white, and blue. Had a flag shirt on, so they love it that I go all out. I even have glasses that are red, white, and blue that are like hearts, and so I definitely go all out, and they love it, and they just they're just tickled when I start talking, and I'm throwing around y'alls and and my sweet Southern accent that they don't get to hear a lot out here.
Next year you got to throw out at least one yeehaw.
Yes, for sure. And I will say just one thing that the other thing that's my favorite, obviously just meeting people, but we kind of touched on this privately, but with all the division and stuff in the world, our DJ is, a veteran, had a son who passed away in service to our country. And so at 12 o'clock, he does the national anthem, plays a couple of patriotic songs. When they're playing the national anthem, many years you can hear everyone singing. This year in particular, and we didn't get no video of it, but it was so quiet.
You could hear a pin drop.
Besides the music, you could have heard a pin
Everybody
drop.
froze.
And there was hundreds of people around us.
Wow.
And so it's definitely, it gives you goosebumps, because it's just, and they said, I didn't get to see it, but apparently right at the end, the wind started blowing and the flag was just like flapping in the wind.
Right,
and I heard
back,
quite a few people go,
yeah.
Like how could that was just amazing that it just right at the perfect time.
Right. As the national anthem started playing, there was no wind. Like the flag was just draped down. And then as it ended, as that last note, Home of the Brave, went out, the wind picked up and it started flapping. It was a crazy moment. Yeah.
So it was just a very patriotic area, and they really love their country.
I think the good Lord knew that we needed that right there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. Rob, you got anything? Yeah.
Oh, I just want to say thank you for sharing that with us. And we're glad these guys are so patriotic out in your area, because me and Dave were both very patriotic too. And that's amazing and awesome to hear these stories. And that's just awesome. We love it.
Yep.
Thank y'all for being with us. Hang with us for a minute. We'll get back with you off the air here, but we're going to close this program. Thanks to our followers. We have hit a couple of milestones in the last week or so. We've got some really nice interviews coming up as well. We'll talk about that in another program. But we're excited for what we're doing. It's a lot of fun. Get to meet great people like this. And hey, we got to see some cool cars. And I learned some things tonight. Which is not hard because there's a lot I don't know. But that's pretty cool. Thank y'all both again for coming. You'll be back because we're going to talk Florida area football. We're going to talk about that when it gets closer.
I'm ready to.
And a little Georgia too.
Not too much longer.
And we'll take some video clips at Hot August Nights to give you guys a flavor of what that's like.
Would love it. Thank you so much for taking the time to do that. I know you were busy, so we appreciate that.
No
all right. God bless everybody. Robert, Go ahead.
Guys, y'all like and follow and subscribe on YouTube.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Help us out a
Everybody,
lot.
it's a great show. Y'all should all follow.
Yes. Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Bye.
Well, once again, it's time, my friends, for another meet and greet. We're Southern Fried and nationwide, so hang on to your seat. Look around, here's what I found. I guess you'll never know what you'll see on the Southern Fried Podcast Show. Yeehaw!
Knucklehead, moving my stuff around.
We're
You
still
moved my
running.
stuff
We're
around. I
still
was trying
running.
to click it. I couldn't find it.
Are we still recording, Rob?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes,
Well, you're still a knucklehead.
I'm still a knucklehead.